Welcome back. Authorities have arrested former Abercrombie and Fitch CEO Mike Jeffries. Prosecutors are charging him with sex trafficking charges, accusing him of sexually exploiting and abusing young men, suggesting that they would be hired as models. The U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York is holding a press conference on that right now. Let's listen in for just moments ago.
We're going to dive right into this, but I know this has been, this came up some time ago. We did this on our channel, over a year ago, Brian was telling me. So it seems like things are coming to the light. All the things that people have done who are in the limelight, who have a lot of clout, a lot of status, a lot of money, that was not right and that intentionally did harm to people is coming to light. Let's get into this. We're going to talk about that.
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Peace, the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of New York. Thank you all for joining us today. With me today are James Dennehy, Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's New York Field Office. We have Deputy Chief Carlos Ortiz, Commanding Officer of the NYPD Special Victims Unit. And we have my office's outstanding prosecution team, Aaron Reed, Megan Farrell, and Philip Pilmar. We're here today to announce the arrest and charging of 3 defendants. Former CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch, Michael Jeffries, Matthew Smith, and James Jacobson, on charges of sex trafficking and engaging in interstate prostitution. Powerful individuals for too long have trafficked and abused for their own sexual pleasure young people with few resources and a dream of securing a successful career in fashion or entertainment. To anyone who thinks they can exploit and coerce others by using the so-called casting couch system, this case should serve as a warning. Prepare to trade that couch for a bed in federal prison.
Wow, you heard that right.
The message from today's prosecution is clear. Sexually exploiting vulnerable human beings is a crime.
It is.
And doing so by dangling dreams of a future in fashion or modeling or any other business is no different. My office and our law enforcement partners will always prioritize standing up for victims, no matter their gender and no matter how powerful the wrongdoers think they are. We will hold them to account.
You heard that.
As we allege in the indictment, between 1992 and 2014, Michael Jeffries was the chief executive officer of Abercrombie and Fitch. Abercrombie was a widely known clothing retailer with stores around the world.
Oh my God, y'all, that has been like one of my favorite stores. I don't shop there like I used to, but I still have stuff from Abercrombie that I wear. I love that store. Okay. This is so sad.
Aspiring fashion models knew that a place on one of Abercrombie's iconic ads could be the ticket to success in the modeling industry.
Yes.
But while Jeffries was the CEO of one of the most recognizable clothing retailers in the world, he was using his power, his wealth, and his influence to traffic men for his own sexual pleasure.
How sad.
And that of his romantic partner, Matthew Smith. The charging documents describe in graphic and disturbing detail the violent and exploitive acts these defendants perpetrated, for which they will now face justice in a court here in the Eastern District of New York. So here's what's alleged in the indictment. Jeffries and Smith employed James Jacobson to act as a recruiter to find men. Jacobson engaged in, quote, tryouts with men across the world where he would typically pay them to engage in sex acts with him. Following the tryouts with Jacobson, Smith would often then personally approve whether the men who were selected would meet Jeffries and Smith. The defendants would fly the selected men to Jeffries and Smith's homes in the Hamptons in New York City or to hotels around the world in such places as England, France, Italy, Morocco, and St. Bart's. for the purpose of attending events to engage in commercial sex. But beyond simply hiring men for sex, Jeffries, Smith, and Jacobson used force, fraud, and coercion to traffic those men for their own sexual gratification. For example, as alleged, the defendants employed a referral system and an interview process that did not inform the men of the details of the sex events before they attended, including the full extent and nature of the sexual activity that would be required of the men at these events. They caused the men to believe that attending these sex events could yield modeling opportunities with Abercrombie or otherwise benefit their careers. Smith and Jeffries employed a secret staff to operate these sex events.
That's horrible.
The staff ensured that the men signed non-disclosure agreements and handed over their personal items, such as their phones, before the start of the events to maintain the secrecy of these events.
Wow.
The defendants caused the men to believe that not complying with requests for certain acts.
So you do those things that you don't want to do because you're hoping and praying it's going to break you into stardom. And I'm not judging these people at all by any means. I really, my heart goes out to them. I truly understand, wanting to be, at the top of your game in modeling and entertainment. This is very similar to the situation that's going on with Sean Puffy Combs. Very similar. And this is sad that these people, these young men, did all of that, and they still what happened? So that is a key thing that people have to really, really think about before they do those things. Is this really going to make me feel any better about myself? And what if I do all of this and it still doesn't happen? Wow.
Sex acts during the events could harm their careers. The defendants pressured the men to consume alcohol, Viagra, and muscle relaxants known as poppers during the sex events. And they required the presence of staff during the sexual activity and ensured that the men did not leave the sex events until Jeffries and Smith decided that the sessions were over. Also, as alleged, on more than one occasion, Jeffries and Smith either directed others to inject or personally injected men with an erection-inducing substance for the purpose of causing the men to engage in sex acts the men were incapable of engaging in or unwilling to engage in.
That's horrible.
Additionally, the indictment alleges on more than one occasion when men did not or could not consent, Jeffries and Smith violated the bodily integrity of these men by subjecting them or continuing to subject them to invasive sexual and violent contact by body parts and other objects.
Oh my gosh.
As alleged in the indictment, Jeffries, Smith, and Jacobson didn't just carry this activity on for a couple of occasions. Their sex trafficking and prostitution enterprise lasted at least from the end of 2008 until early 2015.
Wow.
During that period, the defendants hired dozens of men and transported them to New York and around the globe. They spent millions of dollars on a massive infrastructure to support this operation and maintain its secrecy. This included hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash for commercial sex, prolific amounts of money for staff to run the sex events, money for domestic travel, international travel,
this is just
hotel
crazy.
rooms, services from a security company, and Jacobson's salary, among other things.
Wow.
Now, this investigation remains ongoing. Although there are 15 John Does identified as victims in this indictment, this interstate prostitution venture encompassed dozens and dozens of men.
Who probably won't even say a
And
word.
I encourage anyone with information about this case, including anyone who was a victim of the defendant's alleged crimes, to contact the FBI. 1-800-CALL-FBI. Now, I want to thank the victims.
Okay, I'm going to stop here because there's a short little clip that I want us to talk about where he actually was released from jail on a $10 million bond.
First at 6, the former CEO.
Yeah, so let's go into this and then we're going to chop it up in a minute at the end.
First at 6, the former CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch, Mike Jeffries, appearing in federal court in West Palm Beach. He is one of 3 men at the center of an FBI investigation accused of running a prostitution and international sex trafficking operation.
The defendants allegedly preyed on the hopes and dreams of their victims by exploiting, abusing, and silencing them to fulfill their own desires with insidious secret intentions.
Good evening. I'm Felicia Rodriguez. Investigative reporter Terry Parker was in court for today's hearing and has been digging through that indictment. She learned prosecutors believe these crimes were going on for years.
The indictment charges that from 2008 to 2015, Michael Jeffries, his partner Matthew Smith, and their employee ran an international sex trafficking ring and prostitution business. And they used a network of people to make it all happen and to keep it secret. In court today, Jeffries appeared calm, and when the judge told him that he knew his lawyer and he was excellent, Jeffries said, "Good, I'm glad to hear that." 80-year-old Michael Jeffries, former CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch, looked calm, wearing a navy pullover sweater and white pants, leaving federal court surrounded by his lawyers after the judge ruled he could go free on bond while fighting his sex trafficking charges. Prosecutors agree with his lawyers on a $10 million bond, secured by a house he co-owns with his wife in Fishers Island, New York. Jeffries will be fitted with a GPS ankle monitor and restricted to his home on Palm Beach. The indictment states that Jeffries, his life partner Matthew Smith, and an employee of theirs used their power, wealth, and Jeffries' position at Abercrombie to entice more than a dozen young male model hopefuls to attend parties where they were forced into sex acts.
To anyone who thinks they can exploit and coerce others by using the so-called casting couch system, this case should serve as a warning. Prepare to trade that couch for a bed in federal prison.
Prosecutors say Jeffries used the promise of being an Abercrombie model to coerce the men into sex, often using drugs. The indictment says their employees scouted the young men from across the world and invited them to parties where they were then forced into having sex with Jeffries and Smith and others.
Jeffries and Smith employed James Jacobson to act as a recruiter to find men. Jacobson engaged in, quote, tryouts with men.
Okay, so we just heard that. So he was able to get out on $10 million bond. Let me see if there's anything else there he's going to talk about any different.
Across the world where he would typically pay them to engage in sex acts with him.
The indictment follows civil lawsuits alleging the same charges. One of those plaintiffs, David Bradbury.
So today marks a big step forward on behalf of David Bradbury and the other survivors in this action. The arrest this morning served as a validation in their bravery for coming forward and sharing their stories and experiences, and our law firm looks forward to continue representing all survivors of abuse and ensuring that all parties are held responsible.
Jeffries will be able to go home to his Palm Beach condo tonight. His partner must remain behind bars until marshals take him to New York to be arraigned, and their employee was also arrested in Wisconsin. In West Palm Beach, Terry Parker, WPBF 25 News.
Wow, that's because they ain't got that bread like he got that bread. So he was able to get out on $10 million. Y'all, what's done in the dark will come to light. That is so sad that people are that evil to do something to other individuals. Vet the people out. Have whatever your interview process is. But I know they do that regularly for the real Abercrombie and Fitch. You know how they vet their models, and all that is done in the regular nature of how business is directed. But this person here, this is just horrible. And the men, sounds like they didn't get any benefit from it. None. No benefit. Wow. This is sad. And I think people really have to do a self-reflection prior to these things, like acting, entertainment, rapping, all of that, modeling. You have to really come to grips with yourself and ask yourself, is this worth selling your soul? And that is by, what I mean by selling your soul is doing these horrible things that you just don't feel comfortable doing. And you still didn't get any further with the career. They promised you this and they didn't follow through. Same thing with the puppy situation. And people were hoping that, oh, if I just do this crazy thing, it's okay. I can just do it this one time, but it's going to get me a leg in. And it's sad because it didn't. It didn't. And if it's something like that that's presented to you in that way, that's not your opportunity. That's not your opportunity. And you have to look at it that way, that your day is going to come. Keep putting in the work. He's going to connect you with the right people who have good intentions. You may not be what they're looking for, but that's okay. Your yes is going to come. You still may get a lot of no's, but your yes will come. And you won't have to succumb to your morals, your values, your beliefs, and do horrible things for the sake of your dream. So always remember that. My heart goes out to those men, for allowing themselves to go through those things and just not making a better choice for themselves at the time. And I hopefully that they still had another opportunity to become a model through a different agency or, with another company. But I know how big Abercrombie is because I love that store, y'all. I do. That's like one of my favorite stores. I don't shop it, like I said, as much as I used to, but it's a shame. It's a shame. And I'm glad that it took a long time. He said 1992 to 2014. And this is 2024. So that was a long time before this actually was revealed. Well, no, it was revealed over a year or so ago. But now, I guess all of the charges and they have all of the proof and the evidence, and more people came out to go ahead to corroborate what the claims are. So I'm glad. Anybody that does those things to people for the sake of their own gain at the expense of someone else's mind, emotions, heart, feelings, soul, dream, efforts should be penalized, should go to jail, because that's just devastating. And you don't wish that on a grown person or a child. Of course not a child, but you surely don't want that to happen to an adult either. This is horrible. And those guys must have been young. I'm sure they were young men at that time. Just knew that they were going to be getting ready to be set up for an amazing shift in their life. And then look at that. So, okay, great people, what do you think? I know you probably heard about this. I'm glad the justice is finally happening for them. And like the AG said, he said, now you about to get ready to have you a bed in a federal pen, boo. That's horrible. I love you guys. Subscribe. I'm back. More content is coming. We're going to be changing a few things over here, but it's all for the better. It's all for the better. Stay tuned. Give me some ideas for a background. I'm really looking for something new. My space is kind of like limited because we're sharing this space for Brian Anthony and Joy Janine's channel. So we were thinking about putting a green wall back there, but I don't want the green moss feeling for both channels. So give me some ideas, guys. Love you. See you in the next video. Yeet.